I want to circle back to your experience and sort of, because I'm fascinated by your business evolution and, coincidentally or just more deliberately along with the evolution of your art and your craft and your passion. When you made this shift and you found yourself teaching more and more and moving more and more away from the other part of that world, what was driving you? Was the Jones that you were getting satisfied on the performance side, getting satisfied with what you're doing now or where you were moving to?
Well, there's a lot of influences, but one certainly was bad writing really pisses me off. And I was, giving lectures to people who were just getting in the door. People had been at it for a while, and it was a plea on my part to write well, to write better, to take yourself more seriously, and don't cave in to whatever is trendy, whatever is what you think is commercial. Don't imitate other people's hits and whatever. So at first it was just a plea for quality, but also once you get up and start to give lectures, and especially see this whole notion of concentrating an entire, what would be 2 semesters of work at a university into a weekend. I mean, when I first started, as I said, I would do it on Saturday mornings, 8 weeks, that's 24 hours. And then I got a call from Women in Film in New York, and they said, could you come to New York and do the lecture? And I said, well, I can't spend 2 months in New York. And they said, well, could you do it over a weekend? And I thought, can I talk that long? So I said, I'll try. And what I found out was it's now 32 hours over 4 days, right? But what I found out was what I felt, better put, was the hunger. When I had these people in a room for 8, now 10 hours a day, 3, 4 days a week, and there's 300 people staring at you, taking notes and whatnot, you can feel the need.
Right.
And the way they rock and roll and react to the ideas, and when the hands start flying or the keyboard, and that was initially, we're talking about 25 years ago. That was very moving to me. That I and then people would, and I had no idea until people came up to me and they've changed my life. I've solved my novel. I'm going to start rewriting it on Monday, and then I get a letter or something, a phone call saying I sold the novel, it's going to be published, or my film's getting made, and on it. And so there was this direct flow from their need to what I was telling them to their results, and it's very intoxicating to feel that you have that much influence, that people have that kind of desire, and that you satisfy that desire, and then they take it and turn it into wonderful pieces of work. I mean, my writers have won over 30, 32, I forget what it is, Oscars, I can't count the Emmys, the Pulitzer Prize, the Booker Prize. It's very satisfying.
And you shared a story in your recent New York program about a gentleman who was sitting in the front row of a workshop, Kirk Douglas. And yes. I wonder if you would mind just taking a moment and retelling that, because it was such a wonderful story.
Well, I stepped up to lecture one morning, and I looked down, and in the front row is Kirk Douglas and Jack Valenti. So on the first break, I went up to Kirk Douglas, and I welcomed him, and I said, but why are you here? I mean, he was like 75 years old.
Man.
And he said, oh, I feel I haven't done enough with my life.
Amazing.
And I said, what? And he had, a couple years before, published his autobiography. And at age 70-something, he decided to write his autobiography, and he wrote every word of it. And there was no ghostwriter. And Kirk Douglas, at age 72 or whatever it was, discovered he could write in a fine literary way. And the Ragman's Son was the title of the book, and it's beautifully written. And so he discovered a talent he never guessed he had. Yeah. And so he decided to become a novelist. And he came to my lectures because he wanted to learn. And before he had his big stroke, he wrote 2 novels. I consulted on the first one, and I have to tell you, the guy was a writer, a real writer. Now he's 90-something,
right.
and he just wrote a one-man show for himself that he performed in a theater in L.A., a show, I think it's called Before I Forget. And so he's up there, 90 years old, post-stroke, performing his own one-man show that he wrote. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, and I love that story because it just shows, you know, when I was, there were a lot of people who were in their probably 30s, 40s, and 50s in the audience. But I love that story, not just because of who it was, but because of where he was in his life when he came. And how you sort of served this role of facilitating the process of discovery of this whole new passion. And something that apparently he had, you know, some serious aptitude for as well.
The phrase, I feel I haven't done enough with my life.
It blows me away.
You know, I mean, you only get one. Kirk Douglas is absolutely right. You can't stop. Not if you have standards and dreams. You can't give up on those dreams, and you've got to do all you can with your life. And this guy is, you know, tenacious. He won't quit, and he shouldn't quit because, I mean, his next one-man show would be even better, you know. So anyway, it's inspiring.
It was great. So, and you mentioned that you started doing these lectures some 20, 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. So let's take a big flash forward. You know, now you do, I guess you're doing 2 in the U.S. these days and some overseas as well.
No, I do. Well, I have... I write books on the art of writing, as you know.
Right.
And I have a multi-book deal at Random House Crown with deadlines. And so normally I do 4 story seminars in the U.S. every year, or even 5, because occasionally we do another city besides L.A. and New York. We'll do a Boston or San Francisco, whatever. So it's 4 or 5. And then I always do 2 a year in London. Mm-hmm. But now, because of the demands on writing time, not only for the books that I'm writing, but for Storylog, as you mentioned, I have to cut that back a little bit. But it's hard because the demand is so great. So, but the biggest demand has been over the years. The first lectures that I gave, the famous ones on story, mm-hmm. But then people ask for more. They want me to take advanced lessons. They'd read the book backwards and forwards, and they had taken notes, and they had been in the lecture. So then I started adding lectures on the genres, mm-hmm. comedy, crime, horror, the love story, and then I do a day on film masterpieces, mm-hmm. Chinatown, Ingmar Bergman's Through a Glass Darkly, and still the demand is for more. Mm-hmm. And so we've opened up this internet enterprise where I'm giving lessons that go beyond the book and the lectures into subjects that I haven't touched before. And those subjects that I'm doing on Storylog is becoming a fertile ground for the books that I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm exploring these ideas, and the Storylog members get to hear them first, and there'll be a book in a year or 2 or 3. But so it's I see. I've always been stunned by the success of these lectures. I mean, how would I know? How would anybody know? And I had no idea how much they would mean to people and how valuable they would be and for people to improve their work. I mean, I had no way to know. I had no way to know that what the understanding that I had of story was never taught at any university for the last 30 years, and that people were coming out of universities with degrees in literature and did not understand the essential forms, and that I was filling a void in their education.
Which raises an interesting question, because during the whole time that you've been doing this, and I'm sure you're more acquainted with the other people who are out there who are in some way doing something similar, but I'm not aware of anybody else who's really doing something like what you're doing, and which is fascinating because, you know, it seems to me that storytelling is such a powerful medium for film, for stage, for print, and for business. And there are so few people. I mean, I'm honestly, you're the only person I'm aware of that does anything remotely like what you're doing. But it's such an incredibly powerful medium.
Well, there are others.
Are there?
But they don't do 4 days. They do a day and a half. And there's a very different tone between what I do and what other people have done. And if I may, it's a tone of seriousness. My lectures are for real writers. And see, people who try to imitate me try to, I understand because I don't know, but I'm told, to convince people that it's really easy. And that if you, you know, you just follow a few simple steps here, and you too could create next summer's hit movie or whatever. And that screenwriting, because there's all that white on the page, you don't actually have to write that many words. It's really easy, and anybody can do it. I take the attitude that almost nobody can do it, and that you're in over your head. It's going to take you a long time and a lot of failure, and if you don't have the gift of talent and intelligence to begin with, no matter how long you take, you'll never make it. And I drive the dilettantes out of the room. They try to encourage the dilettantes. And I think people know when you're being honest and when you're bullshitting them. And I don't bullshit them. And as a result, the room is packed with hungry people who are very successful. It isn't only, you know, people who want to write.
Right.
But the room is full of professionals who have written with success in all the media and are coming there to sharpen their tools and all the rest. And so it is true that nobody makes people sit still for 40 days. No, but that's because nobody takes it into the depth and the variety of subjects that I do. I need 4 days because I'm teaching so many subjects within story, and you know, it's if I were really smart in many ways, I probably wouldn't work as hard as I do, but there's an ethic or a whatever that drives me, that it has to be perfect, it has to be good, it has to be real. I can't lie and bullshit with people.
And I think that comes through. Well, I don't think, I know that comes through. You know, having been on the other side, and I completely agree. I think the rawness and just the fact that it's unfiltered and delivered with such honesty is one of the things that's so powerful about it.